The following is going to contain massive spoilers for the second dream and the War Within quests. If you haven't completed the second dream and wish to remain unspoiled, this is your opportunity to back out now. And so we've come to Deimos, home of the Zealoid Prelate. For those who don't recall, the Prelate originally appeared at the end of Nightwave Series 2, and was given a permanent place on the star chart with the Heart of Deimos update. Personally, I think the Emissary was a great addition to the Infestation Zone story. Before that, the Infested had just kind of existed, while most of the story building happened around the Grineer and the Corpus. Arlo and the Emissary storyline not only gave us a new look at the Infestation, but reminded the Origin system that the Infestation hasn't stopped growing and evolving while we weren't looking. But first, this looks like it's going to be a standard beat the tank until it stops existing kind of fight. Kind of like Forid, if Forid was actually a tank. However, this is just a warm-up round, and the Prelate's attacks will do considerable damage to an operator if they're unlucky enough to have popped out of void mode at the wrong time. Once the Prelate is down to half health, he'll do the boss fight equivalent of flipping a table and bail. Now he and his minions are immortal, and we're off to the actual boss arena to start the fight for real. As soon as you reach the arena, a bastion spawns on the map. Basically, a mini Prelate carrying an Arlo lantern. First task: find him, beat him down, and steal that lantern, because it's quite literally your only light in the darkness. Once the lantern's in your possession, any enemy that comes within the lamp's AoE, Prelate included, loses their immortality, but that AoE shrinks over time until the lamp breaks. The only way to keep the lamp charged is by killing infested that come within range. Unfortunately, your ability to keep the lantern lit is based entirely on the volume of enemies close enough to kill. As a result, a lull in enemy presence can send you looking for another bastion. Once the Prelate's taken enough damage, he'll break your lantern, triggering the next phase of the fight. Now he's back to being immortal and starts siphoning health back from the other infested nearby. Kill those infested as quickly as possible. They'll be on both the first and second floors of the arena, so unless you've got a weapon with homing ability, you have to move quickly. Once those infested are dead, we're back to square one, and it's time to kill another bastion. How many lanterns you'll go through in this mission is pretty much dependent on how long you can keep them active, before the Prelate decides he's had enough. This mission is actually kind of a challenge for an operator. If you get swarmed without a lantern in hand and can't go into void mode, you're basically going to die. You can't stay too long outside of void mode, or you'll get swarmed, but you can't spend too long in void mode either, or you risk not having enough energy to void dash when you need to. And you'll probably need to, seeing as the Prelate is fond of teleporting away and making you chase him around the arena. With survival pretty much exclusively coming down to your ability to find and maintain the balance between mobility and defense, crowd control is the name of the game. Magus Lockdown is an excellent way to level the playing field a bit and can give you some breathing room when you need it. It's one of my favorite operator arcanes and has been since it was released. To help with survivability, I switched out Magus Vigor for Magus Husk. Normally, I prefer Magus Vigor for the extra health, but the volume of enemies in this mission made armor the high priority. Running Vazarin with Rejuvenating Tides and Void Regen active makes it fairly easy to manage the reduced health pool. Unless that happens. Oof. Points to the Prelate for giving me my first KO of the series. You know, every time I see the Zealoid Prelate, I can't help but think how much his mouth reminds me of a bullion inside a whale's mouth. At least, I'm assuming there's a mouth. It's in the general location where a mouth might be found, but this is infestation we're talking about, so that means nothing. Honestly, the Prelate's design is kind of odd for an infested. Generally speaking, you think infested, you think meat moss horror show. Twisted limbs, too many limbs, violent deformation, boils, general grossness. It's actually kind of strange to see an infested so streamlined and smooth. In a way, he kind of looks like a villain you'd see in a tokusatsu show. One of the things I love about doing this series is that it's giving me a chance to revisit bosses and learn new things, specifically, mechanics within the boss fights themselves. For example, while I was doing some research for this mission, I found out that you can avoid getting flashbanged if you drop a lantern before it explodes. I had no idea that was a thing. One hit. One. Look at this ridiculousness. I so much as breathe in his general direction when he's vulnerable, and he's a done deal. I can't believe I had to go get another lantern to finish him off. Now I'm kind of wondering if it's actually possible to kill him outright during the keep him from healing phase. Well, it's about time. Off to extraction, thank the void. Mission complete. Mission summary. Total mission time: 8 minutes, 12 seconds. Total kills: 160. Headshots: 10. Melee kills: 108. Knockouts: 1. Weapon of choice: Vespa Celica. Next mission: Ceres, Captain Vor and Lieutenant Elect Krill. Thanks for watching.